Sai Sham, Sai Ram, Sai Ram, Sai Ram, Sai Sham. Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Gurur Deva Maheshwara, Gurur Sakshat Parabrahma, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namah. Sai Ram, Sai Ram, Sai Ram, Sai Sham, 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 Sai Ram, Sai Ram, Sai Ram, Sai Sham. रही मन धागा प्रेम का, रही मन धागा प्रेम का, रही मन धागा प्रेम का, मत तोड़ो चटका, रही मन धागा प्रेम का, मत तोड़ो चटका, टूटे से फिर ना जुड़े, जुड़े गांठ पड़ जाए। साईं राम, साईं राम, साईं राम, साईं श्याम, 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 साईं राम, साईं राम, साईं राम, साईं श्याम। सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः, सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः, सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु, मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत्। ॐ शान्तिः शान्तिः शान्तिः।
Welcome to Satsang, everyone. This evening, rather than beginning with one that came in writing in advance, no problem, it's okay, it happens, sweetheart. Don't worry. Things happen. It's the law of gravity. It's okay. No problem. Rather than beginning with a question that came in writing in advance, I know that you had a question earlier today that we didn't have time, and I said, bring it up in satsang. So we'll begin with your question and then open it up to any questions that anyone here may have. Yes. Sure. The link between, what's the link, if any, he said, between yoga and and the conservation of nature. We were speaking earlier about how here at Parmarth there's so much yoga and such an emphasis on yoga, and also how there's this emphasis on environmental protection. Well, the link is the self. Yoga literally means union. That's what the word yoga means. We think of yoga today, sadly, as an exercise, something we do. I'm going to get fit, I'm going to get strong, I'm going to get flexible. But yoga is who you are, not what you do. Yoga, we always say, is a noun, not a verb. It's a state of being out of which doing comes, as we were speaking on the banks of Ganga. But it's not this exercise or this twisting or that twisting. Yoga is union. And it's ultimately the union of the self and the divine. So it doesn't matter what our religion may be. It doesn't matter what name or form we may use for the divine, what language we use, maybe no name, maybe no form. But that divine, that creator, yoga is the union with that. And so protecting our natural world is the most automatic outcome of that. If I'm living in the illusion of separation, I'm over here, the world is over there, this is me, that's not me. Well, then I can cut down that tree, I can pollute that river, I can throw those women into a sweatshop, I can make food choices that end up causing starvation in the world. I can buy gas-guzzling cars, I can leave a really big violent footprint on the earth because the earth is separate from me. Doesn't matter. I'm over here, everything else is over there. But the minute I experience union, which ultimately was what yoga gives us, in that union, there's no longer any place that I end, the earth begins. There's no longer any place that I end and the rivers or the mountains or the trees or the women in the sweatshop or the child laborers or the starving children. No place that I end and they begin. And so we start to conserve our natural world in the same way that we start to care for those around us in a more loving way. Because that is yoga. It's both the beginning of yoga and the outcome of yoga. If you look actually at the 8 limbs of yoga given by the sage Patanjali, the very first limb, asana, is only limb 3. 8 limbs, asana is number 3. So if you were building a building, for example, asana would be your 3rd floor. Well, long before you can get to the 3rd floor, there's a foundation, there's a 1st floor, there's a 2nd floor. You can't just, zap your way up to the 3rd floor without a foundation. And the yamas and the niyamas are really the foundation of yoga. I'm not going to go into them here except to mention that the very first yam is non-violence, ahimsa. The 2nd is truthfulness. The 3rd is non-stealing, asteya. And I mention this because that's the stuff that natural preservation is made of. Violence doesn't just mean I walk out with a machine gun and kill my neighborhood. It doesn't just mean I go and I rape a woman on the street. Violence is in how we're moving through our day. What we eat, what we buy, what we wear, how we live, how we speak, the choices we make. That footprint on the earth is violent, regardless of what form it takes. And so when we practice yoga, we begin with nonviolence as an instruction, as a commandment. You know, long before I've gotten into asana, long before I've gotten into pranayama, long before I've gotten all the way up into meditation and samadhi, nonviolence is what I'm told. Begin here. But then nonviolence also comes later on from a much more enlightened state. In the beginning, I have to remember it. Ahimsa, nonviolence. Yes, this is my foundation. But once I've actually experienced the union of yoga, then nonviolence comes automatically. Then the yamas and the niyamas are no longer things I have to leave, sticky notes on my computer for. Oh, wait, right, what was the 8th one again? It becomes second nature. Becomes who I am. A mother does not need to set an alarm to remind her to go check on her baby when the baby's crying. The baby cries. That is the alarm. The mother goes to take care of the baby. The baby turns over in bed. A sound that no one in the world could possibly hear, an imperceptible sound. But the mother in the other part of the house heard it, felt it, sensed it. Ah, she's awake, he's awake, let me go. They're going to be hungry. It's automatic. It's the most natural byproduct of being a mother. And in the same way, when we are united with the divine, the way that a mother is united with her child, the sleep, the wake, the aches, the pains, the hunger, the thirst of that with which we are connected calls us to it. We don't need the reminders. It becomes second nature. So conservation of nature plays a role in the very beginning in the yamas and niyamas, right there, non-violence, right there, non-stealing, non-hoarding. A non-vegetarian diet is stealing, is hoarding. Not just the meat of the animals, that's not even what I'm talking about, but it's stealing and hoarding the grain on earth. The vast majority of grain being grown is actually being fed not to people, but to animals who become not the ones who work our fields, but the ones who become our hamburgers, our hot dogs, and our hot dogs and chicken McNuggets. The United Nations produced a report saying that the meat industry is the single greatest contributor to global warming. The water usage in one meal of beef is the equivalent water that you would use for bathing for 6 months. And not bathing the way people bathe in India, like from one bucket, but bathing from a shower head that runs for 8 minutes a day, every day, for 6 months. You would use approximately 10,000 liters, about 2,500 gallons of water, which is about the amount of water that goes into the production of a pound of beef. Now, I mention this because when we talk about nonviolence, well, obviously it's violent to eat the meat, but it's not just violent to the animal. It's violent to those who are starving, whose grain we are eating. It's violent to those who don't have water. It's violent to the farmers whose fields are desiccated. So it's violent to the earth. So when we talk about asteya, apigraha, non-stealing, non-hoarding, our whole lifestyle comes in. I just gave one example of what we eat, how we shop, how we live. It's all there. So conservation comes in at the very beginning, even before I get to the asanas. And then as I move through yoga and actually experience divine union, well, then I could no more harm the world than I could harm myself, because I understand the world is self. So it's there on both levels and throughout it all. Other questions? Yes, in the back. Okay. Yes, of course. Okay. No, but that's a great question. So he said, how does the law of karma actually work? I mean, it's not black or white. We talk about good and bad, but everything's not good or bad. There's so many shades of gray in between the black and the white. He said, is someone recording them as this has been good, this was bad? So here's how karma works. Karma is a law of nature. It's not about rewards or punishments. It's not about being good or bad. It's about simply a law of nature. So for example, let's say I plant an apple seed, okay? And I water the seed, and I plant it in the right area of the garden with the right amount of sunshine. I'm going to get an apple tree, okay? The fruit of my karma, because actually karma means action. When you're talking about what you get, this is the fruit of your karma. So my planting of the seed was my karma. Now I've got apples. That's the fruit of my karma. Now, this could go both ways. I could love apples. Apples could be my favorite fruit in the world. You would call that good karma, right? Somebody who has a tree in their front yard that gives them the fruit that they love in the world, you would say has good karma. But it could go the other way. I could be allergic to apples. Apples could make me break out in hives. I could hate apples. Then you'd say, oh my God, this must be bad karma, because look, you've got this tree in your yard. It's giving you fruit that you're allergic to, fruit that makes you break out in hives. You must have done something really bad to get this bad karma. But you see, karma's not good or bad. Karma just is. The fruit of planting an apple seed is you get apples. How you respond to those apples is up to you. So the law of karma works in terms of, it's really got two main elements. One is plant a seed, I get the fruit. The second aspect of how karma works is, remember that ultimately our purpose, the reason we're here on earth, is to get closer to God. We're not here to eat apples. We're not here to eat oranges. We're not here to eat peaches. It's not about that. It's not about the money I make or where I get to in my career. It's about recognizing my divinity. It's about knowing who I am. It's about connecting to God. Can those of you who are here just move up a little bit? We've got a lot more people coming in from that side. So we have some room in the front. If you wouldn't mind just moving up a little. Come. Great. Thank you so much. Just because then people can enter that door more easily. Thank you. Thanks. So karma is about getting closer to God. That's ultimately what it's all about. If you say, what is the point of this game? The point is recognize your divine nature. Not intellectually, not because I've told it to you, but actually experience the divine. That's yoga. That's the union. And so the other aspect of karma is it gives us what we need to take our next step. But we've given it this kind of Santa Claus, he knows if you've been good or bad type of component of, yeah, there must be a list, and the good things that I did are over here, and the bad things that I did are over there, and I'm going to get good karma for these and bad karma for that. But that's not actually how it works. That's just that we've superimposed this Santa Claus and modern education of A, B, C, D, fail, pass type of filter on top of it. Karma is just giving you exactly what you need to take your next step closer to God. And it's a result of what you've done in your past. Not a punishment, not a reward. People who are rich are not being rewarded. People who are poor are not being punished. People who are successful are not being rewarded. People who are failing are not being punished. The question for everyone, rich, poor, success, failure, sick, healthy, is how can I use this situation to get closer to God? How can I use this situation to peel back the next layer of me that is keeping me separate from who I am? And if what I find is the fruit that's growing in the garden of my life is something I'm allergic to, rather than curse it, rather than say, oh my God, you know, it must be my bad karma, my stars must not be aligned. Two things you've got to do with that. Number one, figure out how to find an orange seed, a peach seed. If what you really want are oranges and peaches, it's not about hating your apple tree. It's not about chanting mantras, orange mantras over your apple tree that, you know, somehow the apple tree is going to become an orange tree overnight. It's not about doing the orange dance or the peach dance or the orange asana or the peach asana. The only way you're going to get an orange tree or a peach tree is to go out and get those seeds and plant them and water them. And then it's still not guaranteed. Plenty of seeds are planted that never sprout. But if that's what your karmic package is supposed to bring, that tree will bear fruit. But in the meantime, you've got a tree full of apples. And you may be allergic. But there's probably school children nearby who would love to come over after school or on the weekends and to fill baskets full of apples. There must be people who would love to make applesauce and apple pie. You could make it and give it away. Or, on the highest and deepest level, rather than looking for orange seeds, looking for peach seeds, rather than doing anything else, let your deepest prayer be, oh God, let me stop being allergic to these apples. Let me be able to enjoy that which you've given me. Because our allergy to things in our life, our neighbors, our in-laws, our employers, our employees, our colleagues, whoever it may be, our classmates. This is the stuff that most of our suffering is made of. Oh my God, my mother-in-law. Oh my God, my daughter-in-law. Oh my God, my classmate. Oh my God, my boss. Oh my God, my neighbor. We're allergic. cannot do this, cannot be there. Just their presence makes me break out in hives. And so we try to spend our life figuring out how to have someone else, how to change the situation. Get me out of this house, get me out of this class, get me out of this school, get me out of this job, get my colleagues out of this job. I love the job, get them fired. Whatever it may be. But we're trying to wave our magic wands and turn our apple trees into orange trees and peach trees. Instead of that, let us ask ourselves, okay, God, here's what I've got. Clearly, sometime in my past, I planted an apple seed. Otherwise, I wouldn't be where I am today. How can I use this tree to get closer to you? Rather than transforming it into something else, can I transform my allergy? Can I find the sweetness in this apple tree? And it doesn't mean that everything in life is fun. Failure's not fun. Loss isn't fun. Sickness isn't fun. Death isn't fun. Doesn't taste good. But there it is. There it is in our life. Part of every single person's package deal. There's a wonderful story of a man whose son passed away, and he was bereft and went after every saint and every guru and literally finally gets himself to the Lord of Death. Give back my son. And he's screaming at the Lord of Death, give back my son, you must give back my son, this is not fair. And the Lord of Death says, okay. He says, I will. He says, I understand your pain. I understand you think it's not fair. He said, I will do it. But in order for me to do it, you have to just do one thing for me. And the man said, yes, anything. And he said, I want you to bring me a grain of rice from the house of someone who hasn't lost a loved one. So the man goes off, goes into the village. He's going to get that grain of rice. He's going to bring back his son because it's totally unfair that God took him. And he goes around and he goes house to house to house. And then village to village to village. And of course there isn't a house where no one's lost a loved one. But in this journey he understands. Not that the loss is any less painful. Not that he grieves any less. But he understands that it's not about it being unfair. It's not about God picking on him. It's that this is part of the package of being alive. And so every single person's karmic package, regardless of if you're the CEO or you're the window washer, everybody's karmic package includes failure, loss, sickness, death. It's the only guarantees in life. And so the question becomes, rather than how can I find the mantra, the guru, the prayer, the mandir, the magic wand, to only have success and wealth and health. Instead of that, how can I find the mantra, the guru, to help me find God? Because remember, that's what it's all about. Find God in the loss as in the gain, the sickness as in the health, the death as in the life, the failure as in the success. And that becomes what to do. So no one's keeping a list. It's not a subjective labeling of good and bad. You've got exactly what you've got because A, of the seeds you've planted in the past, and B, because of what you very specifically, individually need to be in to unpeel your layers to get close to God. Yes. Other questions? Me. Yes. Last question. Okay. However many it was, yes. Absolutely. Okay. God and the Big Bang. Fun. I love this. I love this because really what this question is science and spirituality. Who did what? And I love this on a personal level because I have a science background. I love science. I'm a scientist at heart. And by divine grace, I have been brought to spirituality, and I have been given experiences in spirituality that science has no idea how to name, what to do with, completely out of the jurisdiction of science. So here's how I understand it. From both the spiritual side as well as the scientific side. The presence of God does not in any way undermine or negate the presence of science. It's not spirituality or science. It's not God or Big Bang. Yeah, the Big Bang happened. Absolutely. Every scientist worth his or her salt knows. Now, there's going to be some distinctions on exactly what it looked like, exactly how it happened, exactly what the ripple impact was. But bang happened. Evolution happened. Again, we know this. This isn't a theory. You'd have to throw out hardcore, irrefutable scientific evidence of fossils, carbon dating, in order to say that evolution didn't happen, that we were created with a magic wand. Big Bang happened, evolution happened, and, well, someone needed to understand enough to make it happen. That's God. The fact that it happened does not mean it happened automatically. Doesn't mean it happened randomly. The plan is so perfect. Take any aspect of the plan. Take something as simple as the human digestive system. As simple as that, as much of our daily life as that. Look what you put in. Look how the body uses it. None of us could figure that out. Doctors today can barely figure it out. You go in today with digestive issues, they're going to try this, try that, doing a sort of a shotgun approach. Give you this scan, give you that. Today, knowing everything, having that latest in technology. We're still not quite sure how it all actually works. The plan was put into motion with an intelligence. What we call this intelligence, whether we say God, whether we say the divine, whether we have any other name based on our religion, our tradition, our language, our culture, whether we simply say the capital P planner. That was how I used to believe before I had an experience of God. I wasn't religious. But as a scientist, I had spent enough time in science laboratories to know that even knowing exactly what to do, even having all of the elements, scientists know exactly, take a leaf. Here's how much hydrogen, here's how much nitrogen, here's how much carbon, here's how much oxygen, here's how the molecules are bonded together. Give them some styrofoam balls and sticks, they can show you exactly how the different molecules of hydrogen and nitrogen are bonded together. Nonetheless, they cannot create it in a petri dish. We have all of the parts at our fingertips. All the carbon you want to access it. You want nitrogen, no problem. You want hydrogen, no problem. Here it all is. We cannot create a mosquito. We cannot create anything with life. Doesn't matter the simplest form. The very best that we've been able to do after God knows how many thousands or tens of thousands of years of science, and at least the last many hundreds of years of modern science. The very best we've been able to do is, in a few rare special circumstances, we can make Xerox copies. We've been able to create a couple of Xerox copies, but no life. And so the idea that today, knowing it all, having at our fingertips all of the tools, we still cannot create anything. And yet, it happened suddenly, randomly, just hitting against each other. The scientist in me doesn't believe it. I know what happens in science labs with Bunsen burners and crucibles. It's very hard to get anything to happen. And you certainly can't get life to happen, even in the top science laboratories of the world. So yeah, the Big Bang happened, but there was an intelligence that knew. And out of the Big Bang, the rest we know. Evolution, it's happened, but it's happened with an intelligence. It's happened with a planner. It's like the apple seed. Well, I can plant the seed. I can certainly put that seed in the ground. But until and unless the divine power of nature works on it, I don't get an apple tree. There is nothing I as a human being can do to make a seed sprout if nature's not working with me. You give it the soil, you give it water, you give it sun, but nothing else I can do. I can't crack that seed into a tree. I can't blow on it. Nothing I can do to turn that seed into a tree if the divine intelligence isn't with it. And so, for me, it's really a both. Big Bang happened, creation happened, all of the laws happen. Gravity happens. We had a wonderful example earlier. You push the table, it falls. Yeah, gravity. But there's an intelligence in the universe. There's an intelligence through which a seed sprouts. There's an intelligence through which a caterpillar knows how to weave itself into a butterfly. There's an intelligence through which a dog or a cat chasing a bird onto the top of a roof, when the bird flies off, the dog and cat don't jump off. Somehow they know I can't fly. You don't see dogs take leaping jumps off of roofs because they were chasing a bird and the bird flew, and so the dog goes splat. There's an intelligence there. In everything in nature, there is an intelligence. And so the question becomes, well, where did that intelligence come from? It's not in your carbon, it's not in your oxygen, it's not in your hydrogen. Where does that intelligence live? In what part of the seed does the intelligence lie? In what part of the caterpillar does the intelligence lie? It's the same question that we ask spiritually. Who am I? Where's the soul? Who's the soul? And so it's both. Science is a way of studying and describing some of the physical phenomena on Earth. And it's fantastic at that. It just can't describe everything. It doesn't have global jurisdiction. It has jurisdiction over some aspects. That which can be known through our five senses, that which can be weighed and measured and seen in telescopes and microscopes. But it doesn't have jurisdiction over that intelligence that runs through it. The spirit that runs through it, that which connects us. That's the spirituality part. Yes, have a beautiful, beautiful rest of your evening. Have a wonderful dinner. And I look forward to seeing you tomorrow.